Hi, this is Kimball Bullington. I want to talk to you a little bit more about charters, and we're going to use my Bicycle Across America plan project charter as an example. It seems like anytime I go into an assignment and start grading and see people making the same mistake over and over again, it seems like sometimes I find that I led them into that mistake. So I want to talk about a couple of those, but I also want to talk about some common mistakes that you made that I did not lead you into. And so let's just dive into it. So first of all, I really shouldn't have made a redundant title here. That's just sort of annoying. It's not something I really counted off for, though I did mention it a few times. But again, I led you into that. Problem statement. A problem statement talks about a problem. Sometimes we tend to want, sometimes we don't understand what a problem is. So for instance, someone might say, the problem is I need a new drill. Well, that would almost never be a problem. Problem usually associated with needing a new drill is you really need a hole made in some way or another. Now, a new drill is one of the solutions, but so is renting a drill, so is buying an old drill, so is finding a drill at a garage sale, so is borrowing a drill. There's all sorts of ways to solve that problem. And so when we jump to the solution, quite often we don't think of other possible solutions. So let's make sure we define the problem. Now, I give a lot of leeway for the term bucket list, because to me, bucket list means you've already decided that there's some problem, some hole in your life that you're wanting to fill, and that this is the way to fill it. You've already decided that. That's why it's on the bucket list, something you want to do before you die. So if you just tell me it's on your bucket list, I'm okay with saying, okay, it's not up to me to judge that usually. And so you've decided it's on the bucket list, so let's deal with it. So that's a special case, and unfortunately I used a special case example here, but that is a special case. A number of you really didn't tell me what the problem was in the problem statement, but you did later on, or maybe you did. In some cases even, it seemed like there were 3 or 4 problems that you were talking about, not one. And so it's very confusing. So I asked for some clarification. I noticed in a number of cases that the in scope, out of scope was really not that. Or maybe the out of scope was more of a, it was really more like a constraint, or maybe even obstacles. Out of scope is a statement that says, I'm not going to do this. It's not a statement that says, I may fail if someone doesn't do this. It's a statement that I do not intend to go here. A scope is a boundary. That's what's happening. I said, I'm going to do everything inside this boundary, and I'm specifically not going to do these. You sort of describe the boundary by saying, here's what I will do, here's what I won't do. Project description, again, by this time I should really know what the project is. And in my case, I think I'm pretty clear. So I say my project is a completed plan. So this is what my project is. That's not my problem. My problem is I've got a bucket list item that I haven't dealt with yet. My project description is I'm going to create a plan to address that. Okay, and I say in my scope up here that completing it is not really part of the plan. Right now, the plan is just, or the project is to create the plan. Justification and benefits. Now, with some of you, you were doing a project which required a certain amount of money, which I didn't know how that fit into your budget. And so later on I asked you, how are you funding that? And sometimes in the justification and benefits, I know you've got a pretty good expenditure. How did you justify that? Some of you said something like, we'll save a lot of money. Well, what is a lot? That's a natural question that management would ask. What is a lot? So if you're going to use words like that, expect that someone's going to follow up with a question like that. Deliverables, it's sort of like literally something I'm going to deliver to you or to whoever the stakeholders are in the project. And so it can be parts of the plan. It can be parts of the presentation for this class. To me, and maybe this was one reason why it was confusing, I'm creating a plan, and part of the plan is to convince me and to convince my wife Dinah that this is worthwhile, or not, or say, let's take it off the bucket list. So for me, a presentation is not just for the class. The presentation is part of the project, because the presentation, I'm really aiming it at Dinah and myself. You might think that sounds sort of weird, but if you've done very many presentations, you'll realize that making a presentation quite often, you're one of the bigger customers of that. So I give those. Deliverables we've already mentioned. Measures should be able to be measured. A lot of times I couldn't understand how you were measuring what you were writing down under the measures. So for me, I actually, since the project is a plan and the plan is about a trip, I created measures both for the trip, because I didn't think that the plan was complete without some trip measures, and I created measures for the plan itself, which is the real project. So to me, it seemed like both of those were necessary. I want some detail here, folks. You know, like one measure, you hadn't thought through that yet. Budget, maybe I should have written down here, I'm going to pay for this out of current operations. $250 for me is not something I have to worry about. I can come up with $250 over the course of 3 months out of ongoing operations. Now here's the schedule. This is probably where I made the biggest goof in terms of creating an example for you, and that is these milestones look like just actions for the class, and they really aren't just that for me, because my project is about a presentation to Dinah, and all of these are related. Actually, milestone 4 is a mistake. I should not have that one in there. I meant to edit that one. So, and then constraints, obstacles, risks, these are factors that could hold you back. Let's see, what other issues? Biggest issue I saw is you weren't really clear on the problem statement. Probably next biggest issue I saw was you didn't develop your measures well enough. Sometimes all the measures you had were like completion measures. And so what happens when you do that quite often is time goes by and you don't complete anything. I had measured, if you go back and look in my journal, you'll see measured for probably the last 20 years that I'm going to lose a certain amount of weight. And then a year would go by, it didn't happen. Sometimes I'd even be more specific. I'll lose this much weight by this date I'll lose this much more weight. Didn't happen, didn't happen, didn't happen. Not until I started measuring process, like how many calories am I eating today? And started tracking that. How much exercise am I getting today? Was I able to make any progress? So we need measures of the process, not just final outcome measures. And so for me, it's not a good enough measure to say, well, I'm going to do so many miles in the trip. How am I going to train for that? How am I going to get ready for that? So those are measures as well. So problem, definition, misunderstanding of scope, especially the out of scope, the measures, those are probably some of the biggest items I saw. I hope this is helpful. Some of you have asked to rewrite. I do want to say, if I did not say rewrite, revise, and resubmit, then that option is not open to you. You cannot revise and resubmit. But I will say that those who revise and resubmit will not have a higher grade than you. So the person who made the lowest score that I did not say revise and resubmit, the revise and resubmits can't make any higher than your grade. I hate revise and resubmit because I've got to regrade, and I hate that. Part of the regrading is permitted because I think, well, maybe I didn't make it clear enough. But in a lot of cases, I'm just being merciful. Hope this helps. I'm going to have some more to say about work breakdown structure. Thanks.